Welcome everyone to the next Keptn community meeting. Today we again have a couple of issues to discuss, and we will also take a look at the backlog and we'll do some planning. But before I hand over to the Keptn development team, what I will want to announce is that please be aware that for next week and in 2 weeks, we will move the Keptn's community meeting to the Wednesday. So it will be the same time, but it will be on the Wednesday. So May 20th and May 27th will be the next community meetings. And then again, we have to move to a Wednesday in the middle of June. It's basically because of public holidays in Austria, and yeah, part of the core team is located in Austria. So we just move it to Wednesday. So we still have our regular weekly cadence, but we just have it on a different date. If you want to get all these updates, make sure to subscribe to our community calendar. We have the link down here in our document, and also we will announce this on in our Keptn Slack workspace and also on Twitter. So make sure to also follow us there. All the links are in the very top of this document. So if you enter this document, you will find all the links in the top. And with this, I guess we can already jump to our first PRs here. I will hand over to Johannes. I also see a couple of other folks from the Keptn community are joining. I'm promoting them so they can also share if you have something to share. And yeah, let me just stop my screen sharing, and please, Johannes, go ahead.
All right, let's take this one. And yep, you should now see my screen. Well, I have one update to share. It's about the Keptn documentation. Actually, this was a joint work between Jürgen and myself, and we did restructuring of the Keptn docs page. And I just want to show you what changed or what will change with the 0.7 release when it comes to the documentation. And maybe just an additional note on that, the main reason why we did that was because we have now a new tutorials page, and there you find a lot of helpful tutorials to work with Keptn. And before we had these tutorials, we maintained them in the documentation. But yeah, since they found a nicer place to live, we then decided to rearrange and to restructure the documentation. And when you go to the public documentation of Keptn on keptn.sh/docs, then you will find the documentation for the current release, the 0.6.2, which is the latest stable one. And you will also see the develop folder down there. And this one is the documentation that is currently under development. And this will be the release documentation for 0.7. And when you click on that one, you can see that here we have now, another structure. Still on the top of this menu is a quick start, so that everybody who is new to Keptn can gets a one-pager, and in this one-pager, the person can set up a cluster, install Keptn, gets a link to the tutorials, and also has a link to information to uninstall Keptn.
Hey, can I interrupt you?
Sure.
We did have like this little text on top that says,
that's true.
Hey, this is the development documentation, please don't use it, etc. That one is gone, I guess.
Yeah, I also recognize it right now. It is supposed to be there on a documentation that is not supported or where you should upgrade, but we're missing it for the develop branch. I take a note on that and I will fix it.
Thanks.
I guess it will lie somewhere in our Git repository. It should still be there.
Well, the PR for restructuring this documentation had an impact on 150 files, and maybe, yeah, I lost it.
That's fine.
Okay. Thanks. And when we continue there, yeah, you see here then I call it topic areas. In other words, you find sections that have a specific topic or target. And here you see, for example, a section for operating Keptn, manage Keptn, then a section for the use case of continuous delivery, one for quality gates, automated operations, then here one for custom integrations. This will contain documentation how you can write your Keptn service and deploy it with Keptn, or not, and use it with Keptn. And then here further down you get information how to set up monitoring. Then still this is still available, the reference section, where you get infos about the Keptn API, bridge and CLI. And the last item in this menu is now a troubleshooting section. And when I click on one of those categories, let's take the operate Keptn, and then you still get all the information that was available in the previous Keptn documentation. But now it's not aligned to a tutorial, it's just a how-to. How to install, for example, the CLI, how to upgrade, how to uninstall, and also some additional information like the Kubernetes support metrics is also part of this operate Keptn section. And I take another example and then I will stop, because you can scroll or you can explore it by your own. But for example, let's take continuous delivery. Here you get also informations how to set up a multi-stage delivery workflow. And a second how-to is how explains you how Keptn does the deployment with Helm. And we think that this new structure now also helps us to scale in sense of new use cases and new features, because we can easily then add them to the topic they correlate to. All right, yeah, as I said, please feel free to click through the new documentation. Whenever you find a broken link, fix it by your own, or just shoot me a Slack message, then I can take care of fixing the broken link or something else. All right, yeah, this was the update from my side. It's about the Keptn Docs page, and now we'll hand over to Christian.
Thanks. All right, so my first two pull requests are about improving platform tests for various Kubernetes versions. So the first one here is for Minikube, where we have a very simple use case quality gates test. And before this pull request, you only tested on a very old Minikube version, which was, I think, version 1.2. And with this test, I basically extended our test matrix on Travis CI to cover multiple versions of Minikube, which essentially mean that we cover Kubernetes versions 1.15 to 1.18.2 with our tests. Again, only for the use case quality gates in that scenario, so not for the full installation. The files that are changed is essentially only travis.yaml, and the way it's written now is using a YAML templating syntax. So I can basically just say down here, give me the Minikube standalone test from above and override the Minikube version. And that's what I did basically for the other tests. So if we need to test the new Minikube version, it's as simple as just adding 3 new lines, and if you count the new line, a 4th line. The second one is about Google Kubernetes Engine, where we also have an automated test on Travis CI. This one got extended a little bit further now. Basically, we have the option to reuse Istio or to reuse the ingress gateway, in that sense that GKE already delivers a Istio version, I think 1.2 or something, so a rather old version, but it's already pre-installed and Google manages it. And we basically now test Google Kubernetes with and without Istio in version 1.14 for Kubernetes and 1.15 for Kubernetes. So that's 4 test cases now. And within that pull request, I also prepared the tests for Google Kubernetes version 1.16 and 1.17. with the same or very similar templating syntax that you've seen just before. So this is just to be enabled when we need it. Unfortunately, as of right now, 1.16 is not directly available on Google Kubernetes, but from what I read, it should become available like in the next couple of weeks. And 1.17 is scheduled for later this year, but 1.16 is something we definitely want and need to test with the full installation. Final example, what does this look like on Travis CI now with both combined? This is a rather huge test matrix, I agree. This is what it would look like for a normal run of the master branch. So this is something we run on every push on the master branch. Basically, when we merge a pull request, this is something that we run, which includes Minikube, Micro Kubernetes, Minishift. We don't run Google Kubernetes every time. We run that once a day. Let me check if I can just go to the cron. Yeah, there we go. We have a cron that actually failed, but it failed down here with Minikube. But this is a cron that runs once a day, just to make sure that we did not break anything in the full installation. But obviously the tests for the full installation, they take like a little bit longer than the tests with Minikube. Therefore, we don't run them every time. Also, with Google Kubernetes, there is some cost involved, and we also don't want to let these costs explode at the moment. Okay, any questions about the tests or the platform tests? All right, if you have any questions or concerns, shoot me a Slack message afterwards or comment on the pull requests. I would also like to show one that's still work in progress now. So I started improving the integration test for quality gates. I'm not quite finished there, so it's still work in progress. Just want to show a couple of things here so you can see my approach. So what I do basically is I have sli.yaml files for Dynatrace that I test. That would be default metrics, and I also extended them with non-default metrics. I have a different entity selector on the very right side of the SLI. And essentially, I do have 2 SLO files that I will test with that, actually a third one as well. The first one has 2 metrics that have criteria and a third one that's an info metric. And the second file basically adds 2 more info metrics. That would be the number of calls to other services and the time spent in those calls. So for instance, if my service calls a database or if it calls another microservice, then that would be something that I want to see. And in the third file, I also say I want to add a warning and the pass criteria for the number of calls to other services. And with that, I basically can write an integration test. I will spare you the details of the test because it basically is a lot of bash scripting, at least right now. Maybe in the future, we will switch to writing the tests in Go. We'll see. But essentially, I can write tests that make sure that these criteria work, that make sure that adding new SLIs and new SLOs work. And so far, let me see, is there a job running? Yeah, there's one running. That's in my feature branch that I'm working on, and this one actually has just passed 12 minutes ago. And essentially, I do check the response of the SLI provider and the response of Lighthouse service in this case. I check that this is an evaluation done event, and basically, I also check the log output of some services to see what's going on actually, and to see if everything is working as expected. And yeah, so this is work in progress, but it's about to be finished. I think it will be done tomorrow. Any questions about the integration test?
No questions.
I want to highlight that all participants in the meeting, you can just unmute yourself and ask questions if there are any. So no need to, of course, you can also use the chat or the Q&A section, but you can also just jump in with your questions. Yeah, please, Johannes, go ahead.
No, I just wanted to say that it's pretty cool so that we have now confidence that the quality gates use case is working. And when we maybe miss something or we change something that's not broken.
Okay.
All right, with that, I would hand over to the next person, and I'm actually going to ask the next person. Christian Heckelmann, do you have anything to present? We didn't ask you.
Yep, I can show you what I have so far.
Nice.
So for the CLI enhancement, first I had to add some stuff or create some merge requests. No, not in GitHub, it's pull requests for the API endpoints in the Go utils and adding a creation date to the models that I can, where is a commit, files changed. So come on, load. As you can see, my computer is a little bit slow today, but for the CLI enhancements, I already implemented most of the required CLI commands, get projects, services, service cards, and so on. And what is missing right now is the output of the raw data here for the output YAML. This I need to implement. But therefore, I need to adjust the Go utils one more time to actually get this stuff. So big shout out to Johannes. He helped me a lot on Monday. So, yep, that's it.
That's cool. Great.
Thanks.
Awesome.
Christian, do you have any blocker?
As I said, right now it's only that I need to adjust what we talked about, getting the data for the raw YAML file output.
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't have time till now to look into it, but I started today with it.
Cool.
All right, the next one in the list would be Florian.
Yes, let me just share my screen. All right. Can you see my screen already?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Today I want to show you two things. So the first one is an upgrader for upgrading your Keptn installation from 0.6.1 to 0.6.2. And for that upgrade, we have used a concept that has proven to be quite useful in the last release, which is to deploy a Kubernetes job that will take care of upgrading all the resources.
Can you make that a little bit bigger, please, Florian?
Yeah, of course. All right.
Thank you.
So in an essence, I won't go over the code in too much detail, but what it does is first it will check if all the manifests that are required to upgrade the installation are reachable via GitHub. Then it will check if currently you have the version 0.6.1 installed. And when that's the case, it will proceed with upgrading all the components. So applying the manifests, updating the images to the latest version. And it will also deploy the new Nginx API gateway that has been used to make the API of the configuration service available via the Keptn endpoint. And yeah, one thing that's maybe also worth mentioning is the procedure of deploying or applying this upgrader is exactly the same for the full installation as well as for the quality gates only installation. So based on what's installed currently in your cluster, the upgrader job will detect the type of installation and do the required actions automatically. All right. Are there any questions about that, about the upgrade procedure?
So we had a question in the chat, and I will just, because I think it fits here, so I will just read it. The question was if the flag install minus reuse minus istio was removed in 6.2. That was already the answer in written, but Christian or Florian, maybe you can also answer it here on the video.
I'll answer that. The flag was renamed to ingress install option. The flag used to be experimental and hidden before. I think it still is hidden. But now that we don't just have the option to reuse istio, but also to reuse Nginx ingress, which is still also experimental, but we opted to rename that option to be a little bit more precise for the ingress and not just for istio. The option still works as before, so you just need to change the minus istio install option to minus ingress install option.
Thanks, Christian. And another question that came in, and I think it's also, we can cover this here, is which Helm version do we support in 6.2 or do we use in 6.2?
It's still Helm 0.2 that is supported in the current version of Keptn. Helm 0.3, Helm 3 is coming with 0.7.
So if you are using the master branch of Keptn, then you would already have Helm version 3. And if you're on one of the latest releases, it's Helm version 2.
Thank you. Great. Sorry for interrupting, Florian, but I think we covered the last question, so we can move on. Thank you.
All right, perfect. And the second pull request I want to show you is part of the manual approval story that we're working on right now. Because, yeah, what that issue or this pull request is about was an extension of the configuration service, because now we have the requirement of maintaining a list of open approvals for a certain service within the configuration service. And thus we have extended the response sent by that service for the get projects, get services and get stages endpoint, etc. So in addition to the previous property, like the creation date and the last event types, we also now have a list of open approvals, which looks like that. So basically here you have the event ID of the approval triggered ID, then the image and the tag that need to be approved, then the Keptn context, and of course timestamp. Maybe Christian Hechelmann, I think this also kind of intersects with your current work on the Go utils.
Okay.
Yeah, so maybe we can sync on that shortly tomorrow if you have time, or next week.
Yeah, let me quickly, tomorrow in the round about 10.
Yeah, that's perfect.
Okay, just shoot me an invite.
Yeah, sure.
I think you should have my email address. Yeah, it's in the GitHub profile, right?
Okay, perfect. All right, and in addition to the previous endpoints we have made available by the configuration service, there is now a new endpoint where we can create an approval. This is actually needed by the gatekeeper service, which will create an approval via this endpoint as soon as it has received an approval triggered event. Then, of course, there's a get method for the approval endpoint, which will return a list of open approvals for a certain service. And then in order to close an approval, we also have a delete endpoint, which will remove a certain approval for a service. And what is now missing for the complete manual approval service is the possibility for the CLI to first retrieve all open approvals and then to send an approval finished event. So that's what I'm currently working on, and it should be finished tomorrow or next week. And yeah, those are the two PRs I wanted to show you.
Thank you, Florian.
So we can hand over to Ermin if he's on the meeting.
Yeah, thank you, Florian. I'm going ahead with, I'm going to show you two improvements in the bridge. The first one is better time visualization, and the second one is the menu now for environment and services screens. Yeah, the first issue was that with the time visualization, the unit that we have been showing was in minutes fixed. So when an event, the duration of an event was lower than 1 minute, it showed 0 minutes instead of detailed information about how many seconds it took, or even if it was longer than 16 minutes, then it was 60 minutes, then it was showing just the minutes and not more information about that. And the second one, I will show a live demo of that one, of that improvement. So that's why I'm showing the issues first. And the second one is we want to create now two views, environment and services, and split those to get more features for a specific user group into one view. So now we introduced two views, and then we will enhance them with more features. And yeah, I will show you that as a live demo. As we can see when we enter the bridge, now when I select the project, I enter the services screen, since this screen has the most information currently. So as we are used to, we can expand the service and yeah, select the root event where we can see all the traces. Here I will show you the improvement of the time visualization. As you can see, if the duration of an event is yeah, several minutes, then it shows minutes and seconds. And if it's only just if it's less than a minute, then it shows only the seconds, for example, or if it would take longer than 1 hour, it will also show hours, minutes, and seconds. Yeah, and on the environment screen, we have the stages. So here we have currently only an overview of the stages and the services that are displayed, that are deployed in that stage. We are looking forward to improve this and add more features to that screen in the future.
So if I can interrupt, I just saw that the deep link functionality does not work with the environment or services screen. I think we need to add that, because if you click on services, then I guess the deep link should always reflect that you're going to services, and then you go to environment. This should also reflect that you're in environment, etc. I think we'll need to add that functionality.
Currently, the deep links stay the same as they have been with the previous version, since all the deep links or all the deep links are in regards to the services tab. And yeah, we will improve that and change that as soon as we add more features to the environment.
Yeah, but if you're on this, if you're on the page right now, if you can click on environment now, and then just
the link does not change.
Yeah, but just hit F5 now in the browser.
Yeah, when you refresh, then you are in the services screen again.
Okay, at least that works fine. So that works as expected. And okay, thanks.
Yeah, so the link works as expected, but yeah, we will have to improve that, and of course, yeah, that's from my side.
We also have a comment from Rob that also says, please keep the service deep link pattern the same if possible. So yeah, that needs to keep working as it is.
Yeah.
But I have to say, from a customer view, it's looking really, really good. The new bridge. Great job.
Go, thanks.
I also like that we have now more space on the right side on the event stream, because then we have also more, or we can show more information there. I mean, we don't want to add more information, but it's we
Yeah.
use the place more useful.
That's also a slight change. We changed this separation into 1/3 and 2/3. It was 1/2 and 1/2. So that's a slight improvement. Yeah, but it's noticeable. Yeah.
Ermin, can you go back to the first example that I showed you us, where you explained the time visualization?
Yeah, that's here in the duration of the events. For example, especially for the evaluation events, it's very interesting to have the duration of that event. And it was showing here, for example, now it's showing 58 minutes and 8 seconds. It was showing this unit only in minutes. Yeah, so it was showing only 58 minutes, or in case of seconds, it was showing 0 minutes, for example, if it was just a few seconds.
I see, but can you go back to the other example? I don't understand the 58 minutes. Here we have 5:16 to 5:18, and in brackets there we see 58 minutes.
Good question.
I think it's unrelated because I have a similar bug in my current version that I have deployed. It seems to be taking 2 different timestamps for the calculation.
It could be that there is some issue with that calculation, because I cannot see the I cannot see any issue with that. Yeah, it should be just, what is that, 2 minutes or less than 2 minutes. Yeah, you're correct. Maybe it takes the wrong timestamp, or it's
it certainly works on the SLI retrieval done event above. So the calculation itself must be correct at some point. But for the evaluation done event,
time zone,
somewhere something got mixed up
issue.
for the. I have the same on my version. It's not related to the pull request, although that's a different bug somewhere. We'll need to write that down.
Yep.
Okay. There was a question regarding the time zones here. Is it shown in the UTC time zone or in the local time zone of the user? Do we know this?
Good question. Those are displayed always in the time zone of the user. As you can see, it says 5 p.m. in my case, but it's 16 in the database. So yeah, UTC time is, and here displayed, it's always in the user time zone.
Thanks.
Yeah, cool. If there are no more questions, that's from my side, and I'm handing over to Jürgen. Jürgen, you need to unmute.
Thank you. I hope it's the right screen that you can see. And it's kind of a small issue I want to show you, and it's just a change. Is it the right screen? Can you see GitHub? Yeah. Oh, okay. So what we did is basically we added in the examples, we added the load generator to run the load generation inside of the Kubernetes cluster. So there is no need for, if you walk through the examples, if you want to walk through the tutorials of Keptn, there is no need to start the load generation in a separate terminal or to start it on the local machine, but instead you can start it directly within the cluster. Maybe I should go to the conversation first. So it's basically what we wanted to achieve is that you just execute, or you just apply a Kubernetes manifest, and you will start the load generation inside the cluster to all the 3 stages that are typically onboarded or created when you do the tutorials with Keptn and its shopping cart service. So in this case, it's a very simple load generation script. It's still a shell script, but there is no need for you to execute the shell script. It's basically you just start the load generation, and we have a couple of YAML files that can be applied for different scenarios. So you have the cars load generation base, which will just start it with like a base traffic that's going on. There's a little bit of sleep time between the items that are added to the shopping cart. Then there is a faster version where you can imagine the sleep time is just a little bit slower. And then there is another version which adds some faulty items that will cause the cart service to need more CPU to process these items, and it just has different items here. So of course you can also change this. If you want to speed up this process, you can just change the files here. And if you want to change the load generation file itself, it's also just in here, and it's basically just built into a Docker image, and that's used in these files. So nothing more, not fancy, but we just hope it makes it easier for you when you go through the Keptn tutorials, that there is no need to run any load generation script for the use cases. And also we suggest now to already, after the first onboarding of the service, to start the load generation, so that monitoring tools in the background have a good baseline when you move on to the quality gate evaluation and also to the self-healing parts of the Keptn tutorials, so that the monitoring tools already got their stable baseline, and the anomaly detection is working correctly. Any question on this? If not, we just take a look here at our agenda. Next part will be take a look at the work in progress items. And I think I'm also handing over here to Christian and Johannes. So I'm stopping my screen sharing. We have a couple of more questions, but I think they fit more when it comes to the backlog refinement. So we just keep the questions and we will ask them in the next part of the agenda. Yeah, also we're running a little bit short on time. So if I can ask you to just put your question in our Slack channel or Slack space, or even on the issue or pull request itself, if they fit, please do so, because that makes it easier to keep track of the questions afterwards. All right, so one of the next steps we want to go through with you is to take a look at our working items. And as a first thing, I'd like to discuss the things that are in progress or assigned and committed. So things that are not done yet. So basically the issue here is taken by Christian Heckelmann. He already presented parts of his issue. He's still working on it. Same is for my issue here, improve the integration test. I've presented it. I think I will be done tomorrow. Then we have one issue for Ermin, which is called unit test for bridge. Ermin, can you just say a couple of words? What's the status? What do we need to do?
Yeah, this I had no time to finish that one. Actually, there is still some UI tests that are breaking, and I need to fix them so that I can finish that one. Okay.
Is that blocking is something blocking there, or is it?
No, it's just some UI unit tests that we introduced now, and that should improve the quality of the bridge in future. Which I'm going to finish hopefully this week.
Mm-hmm. Then the second one is also for you. It's the issue where we want to implement the public API, or what we want to access the public API from Keptn's bridge.
Yeah, this is also ongoing since I'm had not much time this week, and I hope I will finish that one as well soon. I have to test that on a demo cluster, and then I will open a pull request. It's still ongoing, but almost finished.
That's okay. We're not trying to stress you. It's really just to keep us updated about what's going on.
Yeah.
The next one, I think Johannes and Florian. I think Florian, you have taken that one.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So that one's currently under development. There are a couple of couple of more stuff that we need to extend than we originally thought, but nothing too bad. So we need to make a little extension to the Go utils, which I'm going to think about tomorrow with Christian. And another thing is actually a new issue that's now part of the backlog, which is to make the MongoDB data store available via the Keptn API. But
Yes.
as soon as that has been done, this should be finished very quickly.
Okay, thank you. And the last one is for you, Johannes.
Yeah, that's mine. Last week I forgot to talk with Andreas about this issue, and I still need his feedback on that. I left a comment there, and yeah, it's still open and need to be discussed. But this is the first issue or first task I will approach on Monday morning to get this one done, and also to get one step further when it comes to the self-healing use case.
Okay.
This is important for me now.
Okay. Thank you everyone for the quick update. Now we have like this issue here assigned and committed. So Ermin has said last week that he can take this issue. Ermin, is that issue still okay for you, or is that?
Yeah, that's still blocking? Okay. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Maybe to also answer a question that was in the chat earlier. Filtering is part of the backlog. We will allow filtering of root events on the left side of the screen, so you can filter which of the root events you want to have. I hope that answers that question. Okay, and now to the...
Let's jump over to the new ones.
To the new ones, yeah. I think the backlog column is already filled with all the new ones. Okay.
Yep.
So we can work right off that column, I think.
Right. I mean, the first issue is a follow-up on the environment screen. Yeah, Ermin showed us that now in the environment screen we can see the stages, and the next iteration and the next step is that you can click on one of these stages, and when you do that you get the information, some meta information of the stage on the right side, and then also you should see all the services that are running in this stage and the last image that was deployed.
Yeah, I think we've already presented that one last week.
Yeah,
so
true.
this is still from last week's backlog anyway. Who wants to do that? Who has time for this issue actually?
Yeah, that's something that you could assign to me. I don't know if, yeah, I will take that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Johannes, if you want, you can also request control, like we discussed. There we go.
All right. Yeah, the second issue in the backlog also corresponds to the bridge, to the user story of the manual approval and the bridge, and it's then all about visualizing that a stage is out of sync compared to its previous one, and this also is an indicator that there is an open approval. Yeah, that has to be answered, and first show or visualize the out of sync status of a stage right here, and then also provide this information on the right side, and also show all the open approvals for each service. Yeah, with the new endpoint that Florian showed us last time and also this week, yeah, all the information is there, and it's just a kind of a way to, or it need to be implemented a way to show this information in the screen.
I think I accidentally opened this in a new screen. There we go.
Okay. Yeah. Who wants to take this one?
Yeah, I would suggest that this stays in the backlog, since this is depending on the previous one we discussed.
Yeah, true. Yeah.
And yeah,
Yeah,
I mean,
we also
I could take it, but I don't know if it will be possible to make it during the next week. So
that's okay.
That's
yeah,
okay.
and there is a dependency, so
Mhm.
let's leave that one in the backlog.
Let's leave it and let's discuss it next Wednesday.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay, yeah, the next one is also, I think we've discussed that before. I think essentially it means we need to make a contribution to barista components to add, like, to enable highlighting of a column in the heat map chart. It's also the question who wants to do that, and do you have time for it next week? Or should we leave it in the backlog? I think we will leave it in the backlog then.
Mhm.
Maybe I take this one as well
Yep.
because my picture is already on it. I will remove myself. Although, so basically, Patrick has created us a little issue that basically goes down to we should add a better documentation for the upgrader that Florian has shown us today. Because when you execute the upgrader, it tells you to delete the existing upgrader job. But that statement might not work on all Kubernetes platforms. We should add the namespace, in this case, the default namespace to that statement. So it's essentially just a documentation issue. And I'll just do that. I'll take that if that's okay for everyone.
Okay, then the next one is an issue that tries to, or takes a look on Kubernetes and which Kubernetes versions we are supporting with 0.7. Because yeah, last week we got the request from Keptn user, and this person asked us what Kubernetes version are we going to support in the future. And for answering this question, I also provided some documentation there. Let me just click on. Oh, no, don't let. Well, on the Keptn docs
Should
page,
I open it?
yeah, well, but it's a closed PR,
Oh, okay.
and I think we don't get the preview there, or do
That's
we?
okay. No,
we don't. Well, let's bring it to the point. With 0.7, we want to support Kubernetes 1.14 to 1.18, and this needs to be verified. Currently, we are supporting 1.15 as the highest Kubernetes version we support, and in the future, we are going up to 1.18. Christian is already doing great work when it comes to testing Keptn on various Kubernetes versions, as he showed us today with his automation in regard to Minikube. But to have a clear answer that's working on the different cloud providers as well, we need to take this task, and we need to invest some time in verifying the support. Here is, okay, well, the definition of done is that when we are sure that Keptn is working on those versions, then we need to remove the version check, which is implemented in the CLI. And in case there are some limitations or some problems that occur when running Keptn on any Kubernetes version, then we also need to list the limitations in the release notes. All right. Who is up for that one? I mean, this one is yeah, testing out Keptn on various Kubernetes versions.
yeah, I can do that, I guess, because I have some initial work done on it already, so I can continue on that.
Cool, thanks.
Okay. Then the next one is writing an integration test for the manual approval use case. Johannes has written a nice test matrix for us and some test scenarios that we can test with, like manual approvals, automatic approval, and so on. It's a very long text. I'm not going to go through all of that. So basically, it's writing an integration test for manual approval, as the title says. Anyone up for that? You don't need to write a bash script if you don't want to. You can use a different programming language or framework if you want. Right. If no one takes it, we can leave it in a backlog for now and see if we can do it next week then. I'll go over one more issue, I guess, which would be the upgrade path from 0.62 to 0.7.
Yep. Well, at the beginning or at the beginning, we wanted to take this task to provide an upgrade mechanism for the approval strategy, but since we are missing the upgrader for 0.7, it's also all about creating the first version of the upgrader for 0.622 to 0.7. And it's also a kind of research task, because actually I don't know right now whether there is something needed for upgrading the approval strategy, or for upgrading Keptn services that implement the approval strategy.
I can have a look at that.
Cool, thanks.
Thanks you, Florian. All right, so this one goes here. The next one is refactor logging in Keptn core. It's a refactoring task, or should we use it?
Can we, let's go a little bit from the priority. This one is not that high. Let's go to the other one first. Yep.
So I guess these two go hand by hand. That's the one that Florian was talking before about exposing the event endpoint of MongoDB data store via our public REST API. So like in one of the previous meetings, we've shown that we've changed the REST API gateway a little bit, and that should be a rather simple task, I guess. We just need to deprecate the existing endpoint and forward like the Swagger UI of the MongoDB data store.
Right. But it's important that we deprecate the current endpoint and to not delete it, because we still wanna, or we don't want to introduce a breaking change. We just provide more capabilities, but don't take away a capability.
So I will take this issue.
Thank you. I guess the other one is also a follow-up.
It's a refactoring task of the CLI commands, so that the Keptn get event command then uses the new endpoint and not the old one, which is deprecated then.
Yeah, so I will also take that one.
Thanks. Okay.
And still, the last one is now refactoring logging in Keptn core services.
We still have one for the bridge.
Oh, we still have one for the bridge. True.
Not sure, obviously, if there is time. That's a bug that I just encountered a couple of minutes before the meeting. Actually, no, never mind. That's the bug that we discussed a couple of minutes before.
Yeah.
I'm getting confused. So as you can see, the testing time is fine for all other events. Just for the evaluation done event, it's not. Should be a minor fix if anyone is up for that.
Yeah, I would say assign it to me since it's a bug, and we will follow the bug first policy. Yeah, let's fix that one.
I'll assign myself as a backup just in case, because well, I've seen it as well. So
cool.
But yeah, let's see who has got time for this. And then the last one, Johannes, this one.
Yeah. I brought this one in because Florian also provided or figured out that that the logging mechanism in the Keptn core services are not not well implemented, or they need to be refactored, and therefore the Go utils, the methods in the Go utils should be used throughout all Keptn services. It's a refactoring task, and yeah, it's required to kind of touch all services and to make sure that logging is implemented the right way.
Does anyone have time for that? I mean, we can also leave it in the backlog, I guess, but.
If time permits it, I would like to do it, but I'm not sure if it will be done this week or if I.
Then let's leave it in the backlog, and let's have a look on that one next week.
Mm-hmm. Obviously, if anyone is watching this afterwards on YouTube or other channels, just let us know via Slack if you want to do any of the remaining issues, or there's always the good first issue list that we have. I think it's linked in the Keptn community meeting document on top somewhere. I think it's linked somewhere below. Other than that, I think we're done with the planning, and I think we can hand it back to Jürgen.
Yeah, thanks. So I just share one last time, but it's actually only because I again want to highlight that for next week, we already meet on Wednesday, and the week afterwards are also on Wednesday. So if you have already subscribed to the Google Calendar, it should be already up to date. So we updated the calendar already. Might just be a synchronization issue that it doesn't reflect it yet to your calendars, but just be aware we start next week already. And then we have a couple of new issues. So thanks, Rob, for participating here also in the community meeting in the chat. So we got a couple of feature requests there, and there will be you triggered a discussion also, and maybe for the last 2 or 3 minutes, I also want to try to kind of give a short summary of the discussion, and it was around is the image tag required for all the Keptn cloud events, also if Keptn is not doing the deployments. Rob, I think this was the actual question. Yeah.
I can just elaborate a little bit on that if you want.
Oh yeah, sure. Thanks, Rob.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, I'm just thinking, the future of Keptn, where it can deploy things, presuming this is the vision, that Keptn can deploy things besides to just Kubernetes. And it can do things besides just a deployment of an image. So one, I wanted to kind of validate that. But then if that's the case, should we when we have these cloud events that all currently specify or require that you specify an image name, to maybe more generalize that so that it's more like you're not locking yourself into requiring image in all over the place. I hope that makes sense.
I agree with what you're saying. So essentially, this is also a topic that I've heard before. It's not just deploying an image, it might be deploying an artifact, whatever that artifact is.
Correct. Exactly right. Because I know things like even in the evaluation, the quality gate, you still have to specify an image, but I don't need an image. I'm just saying, call my quality gate. And, so it's not like something you probably solve immediately, but just right. If it's more an artifact but also not just an artifact, it could be a configuration change. How you abstract that or title that, I don't know, but it just more, I'm thinking, as you think about the cloud events, maybe consider that. I don't have a solution, just an observation.
Yeah, thanks. I agree with that observation. I don't have a solution either. Maybe Johannes has one, I don't know. But we'll actually consider a lot of different things for the future, not just in the cloud events, also for what Keptn is doing. And we'll need to see if we can get rid of this image tag combination somehow. In the end, I guess whatever you want to have as a version could be a string or a JSON object or whatever, and it doesn't necessarily need to be specified by Keptn. Just needs to be human readable somehow.
It's a thing, you know, it's deploy a thing, can change a thing. You know, maybe that's what they came up with foo way back when, because they didn't know what to call it. But yeah, that'd be great. Thanks.
Sorry, I had some troubles with my internet connection last couple of minutes and I missed a couple of answers. But yeah, Rob, that's a totally valid point and a very good use case that we need to think about. That an image is not always, there are situations where you maybe don't deploy an image or you have no reference to an image at all. Yeah, thanks for bringing that up. I will think about that when we go further in discussing the architecture and how we are doing or how we are specifying the next generation of cloud events.
Okay, thank you for all the discussions. Since we're already at the end of the scheduled meeting time, I would like to end the meeting here. We will put the recording online on YouTube. If there are any objections, please let me know. Otherwise, we will put it on there on YouTube, so you can also take a look there. We'll also put another link to our meeting document there, so you can also have a look there. Yeah, I just want to let you know again, next week we already meet on Wednesday. Until then, have a nice evening and thanks everyone for participating. Bye.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.